Some of these players, yes, you should be panicking about. Now, others, maybe we have interesting buy low candidates, but I will say with the first off in Cincinnati, nobody's escaping this nonsense. I mean, Joe Burrow coming out. Joe Burrow giving you the whopping 80 passing yards this week and what was supposed to be a prime matchup against the Tennessee Titans secondary that has been very bad all season now. And if you're looking at what we have so far with this Cincinnati Bengals offense, you've seen them score 3 points against the Browns week 1, followed up with 24 points against the Ravens week 2, 19 against the Rams, and then 3 whopping points against the Tennessee Titans. If you look at the bottom 5 teams that we have right now in the NFL in points per game, you have the New York Jets at 5th worst, Steelers 4th worst, Giants 3rd, Pats 2nd, and Cincinnati the worst offense in the NFL. Now, where do we take this, right? Because Burrow clearly is not healthy. I don't know if he's getting healthy anytime soon. Jamar Chase is still going to be a must-start wide receiver. We are still going to be ranking Jamar Chase as a mid to low-end wide receiver 1 every single week. Crazy amount of volume, crazy talent. Obviously, this is someone that would be elite regardless of the quarterback play. I don't want to say maybe not elite, but he's going to be a wide receiver 1 regardless of the quarterback play, even if Burrow's very bad. Joe Mixon is still somewhat interesting because he is playing just an incredible amount of snaps here. Like, he did have 42 snaps this week out of a potential 53. You only had Trayvon Williams with 6 snaps alongside him. So Joe Mixon is probably still going to be a must-start running back. It's like a mid RB2 just based off of volume and volume alone. And this is where it gets really tough because we know Burrow's not startable. But the question is, okay, well, if you have to start Chase, if you have to start Mixon, what can we realistically do with these guys? We can't bench them. Can we trade them? Nope. Nobody's going to give you anything for any of these players. So you kind of just have to start them, accept your L, take your defeat, and send up a prayer that Burrow gets better soon because there's really no other option for you at this point. Now, going over to Amari, super brief, do not worry at all. Yes, Amari is very bad. He had 1 reception for 16 receiving yards. Ignore it, okay? I mean, Amari Cooper is Amari Cooper. The week prior, dealing with an injury, this is someone that went out there and had 116 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. I mean, you had no Deshaun Watson this game. You had this quarterback going out there and scoring a whopping 3 points against the Baltimore Ravens, having 3 interceptions. Going forward, when we get Deshaun Watson back in, we will be just fine. And it's very fortunate timing for this because the Browns have a week 5 bye. So with that week 5 bye, I mean, you're going to be seeing Deshaun Watson get fully healthy. Amari, who was dealing with these nagging injuries, going to get healthy as well. Really, really needed this bye week for these guys. Amari's going to be just fine. Now, someone that I was saying was going to be fine, Calvin Ridley, is a wide receiver that now we kind of have to begin worrying about. If you look at Calvin Ridley, a wide receiver I didn't love drafting coming into the season. I actually ranked Amari ahead of him. But week 1, he dominated. Calvin Ridley was a target monster. Calvin Ridley was a wide receiver that you could have been very excited about. Since then, Calvin Ridley has just straight up fallen off. Now, partly this is due to the quarterback play that we've had with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been great either. Calvin Ridley kind of saves his day just with a wide open touchdown reception. It's not like really did anything special. Honestly, if I practiced for maybe an hour, I could have ran in that straight line and turned around and caught the ball as well. So it looks like Ridley may be the vertical threat that's taking defensive attention away right now in Jacksonville. Very hard to continue to rank him as that low-end wide receiver 1. I think you have to slide Calvin Ridley down to more so being that mid-wide receiver 2 because it's not just the drop in efficiency, but you've seen a consistent drop in target volume as well. So far this season, you have Christian Kirk, 257 receiving yards. You have Evan Ingram, 232. You have Calvin Ridley behind both these players at 211. So yeah, there are real reasons to be concerned with Ridley. Now, our next guy, Jamir Gibbs, is a running back that you're kind of put in between a rock and a hard place here as well. because nobody in their right mind will go through and trade for Jamir Gibbs right now. Now, if I'm a 3-0 team in a full BBR format, I will do it, but I'm an idiot, okay? And I want to be on record in saying that. But with Gibbs, he is the clear backup running back behind David Montgomery, where David Montgomery goes out there. He plays 53 snaps on Thursday night. David Montgomery sees 32 carries in this offense. And Jamir Gibbs, now so far this season, is sitting with a whopping 39 carries. He's at 18 targets, which is why, like I said, if I'm in a full BBR format, I honestly will be fine going through and saying, well, you know what? Jamir Gibbs maybe not going to give us a ton early on, but ultimately this is a running back that we should expect to expand his role as the season goes forward. Full BBR format, I'm actually fine holding on to Jamir Gibbs. And if you're 3-0, if you're 2-1 and thinking long-term, I think maybe we can take advantage of a panicking owner and go get him at an extreme discount at the moment. But if it's a non-PBR format, yeah, it's going to be absolutely brutal where you want literally nothing to do with them. And also, if you're like 0-3, 1-2, and are desperate for production right now, probably want nothing to do with them in that instance as well. But let me pull up my next running back. And as we do this, let me remind you, if you have not done so yet, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems for the games tonight, you can find that link in the comment section or in the description of this video. If you use promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And on top of that, a Geno Smith special pick'em tonight, more than less than half a total yard going up against the New York Giants. And if you miss it before the game tonight, you can get the Justin Fields special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard going up against the, I don't know who, on Thursday night. We'll get to that matchup later on. But going over to our next running back with Miles Sanders. Sanders is a very interesting case in that really it's down to this groin injury, right? Like if Miles Sanders was fully healthy, I don't think we'd be having this conversation where you go back and see what you had against Seattle 2 weeks ago. Miles Sanders had 9 targets out of this backfield. Miles Sanders had the rushing touchdown, but Sanders has looked very bad from a per touch perspective. Right now he's averaging 2.9 yards per carry. If you're going over and looking at his yards per target, he's had 81 receiving yards off of 23 targets this season. So he is currently injured in a very bad offense and has been one of the least efficient running backs in the entire NFL. And now you add on the fact that Chuba Hubbard sees more snaps and more touches overall than Miles Sanders in this backfield this week. I think that this is a very, very bad spot for Sanders. And I will say, we can't be playing Miles Sanders weekly going forward. I mean, maybe once we see something change in week 6, we can go back to him. Now, going over to Madre Stevenson. Madre is a running back that has also been laughably inefficient. Madre Stevenson, with 16 targets, has 87 receiving yards this year. If you look at just the past 3 weeks, Madre Stevenson is sitting with a whopping 23 receiving yards off of 10 total targets. You're looking at Madre Stevenson averaging 2.7 yards per carry. We had Ian Rappaport saying before the game that you were going to have an expanded role from Ezekiel Elliott. Now, this turned out to be a lie. This turned out to be wrong. I don't know what happened. But what could have happened was the Dallas Cowboys won this game 38-3. The Pats were never in it. They got boat raced from the beginning. And in that kind of game environment, yeah, of course, Madre Stevenson, the running back that's supposed to be a receiving specialist, is going to be out on the field a little bit more. He did play 35 snaps compared to Ezekiel Elliott at 22. But going back to where we're looking at with the bottom 5 offenses in the NFL so far this season, the Pats are at number 2, only in front of the Cincinnati Bengals so far this year. So Madre Stevenson, similar to Miles Sanders, is in a very bad offense, is one of the least efficient running backs in the NFL, is now splitting this backfield with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know if you can get anybody to buy Madre. I thought in a full BBR format he was interesting given the receiving volume, but it looks like that's not the case at all. Now going over to Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel does literally nothing. Gives you a goose egg in the receiving category. He does give you 6 rushing yards. I'm sure you're not happy about it. And in reality, I know that I'm probably being a little annoying here when the 49ers went out and just absolutely crushed with Deebo doing nothing. Deebo was the decoy in this game. Deebo Samuel wasn't fully healthy. I think with Deebo, we probably have to be very hesitant to go out there and start him with aggression going into this next week. But I think Deebo will naturally bounce back. Not too worried about it at all. If you really wanted to go through and buy low on Deebo Samuel, still think that he can be a wide receiver 2 rest of season. I think this is more so injury due to anything. Now, going over to Pittsburgh, I think that we are in a situation similar to Cincinnati, where yet again, this is another bottom 5 scoring offense in the NFL so far this season, where yet again, you have some very bad quarterback play, and now you are also dealing with an injured quarterback. Kenny Pickett, injured, was not good beforehand, 23 passing attempts, 114 passing yards, and the INT. But now you're put into a position where Mitchell Trubisky is the starting quarterback for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, neither are startable. Where right now, if you look at the snaps, you have Najee Harris 29 snaps, Jalen Warren 29 snaps this week. They're legitimately splitting this 50-50. And fundamentally, I think Najee Harris or Jalen Warren, they could be productive if they were in a 70-30 split. If Jalen Warren was getting 70% of this backfield, then sure, yeah, we could go ahead and start him. Or if Najee Harris was getting 70% of this backfield, then sure, we can go ahead and start him. But the pie is too small for them to split it right down the middle and either guy to have a large enough slice for them to be entertaining in fantasy. Not to mention that now the wide receivers won't be startable because we don't have a quarterback that we can rely on, even if Freiermuth does play. And then on top of this, if you're looking at what we have with Pat Freiermuth's injury is probably going to tank this offense even more. Now, the bright spot on this is the Pittsburgh Steelers do have a bye in week 6. So maybe we can say, okay, week 5, week 6, count on benching all Pittsburgh Steelers. Then maybe if this team can get healthy, maybe if we have Freiermuth good to go, maybe if we have, I don't know yet, but Kenny Pickett good to go. Maybe if we have Deontay Johnson good to go in week 7, maybe we can see a Pittsburgh bounce back. But over the next 2 weeks, you're getting nothing from this team. Now, going to a wide receiver that I have drafted a ton of, I've recommended a lot of people to trade for him. Chris Olave gives you nothing this week either. Chris Olave, a whopping 1 reception for 4 receiving yards. Well, Alvin Kamara, his first week in here, has 13 receptions in this offense. Alvin Kamara over doubles the amount of targets that Chris Olave has. And Alvin Kamara is a running back that we've seen throughout his career. He is going to take a considerable amount of target volume in this offense. And I've seen people going through and saying, oh my gosh, Kamara is going to eat too much. We don't know if we can go through. We don't know if we can rely on Chris Olave as a wide receiver 1 going. Chris Olave is going to be fine, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't overthink this. Derek Carr clearly should not have played this game. Derek Carr, 127 passing yards off of 37 attempts. Now, is this different than what we've seen through the first 3 weeks? Yes, of course it is. Derek Carr was great through the first 3 weeks. This was a team that was on its way to being 3-0 if it wasn't for the Derek Carr injury. I think Derek Carr is probably going to be either at 50% or hopefully missing the next few weeks to get fully healthy. And then we just get Jameson, who's going to be, slinging it around, giving us fantasy points. Not too worried about the Alvin Kamara target volume. Chris Olave still did see 6 targets. Olave is going to be fine. We just need better quarterback play, which will happen when Derek Carr is healthy. Now, our next wide receiver is someone that was fine in the box score. If you look at DeAndre Hopkins, he was okay. But the underlying usage is not great. Now, we got this PFF graph, and obviously all these snaps are from PFF. You know, we always say it. But here, if you are looking at the percentage of the DeAndre Hopkins snaps that we have seen in Tennessee, it is a straight linear line down. And it only started at about 75% of these Tennessee Titans snaps. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is closing in on 50% of the snaps in Tennessee. Keep in mind, this is in a game where you have no Treylon Burks, where you have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Chris Moore playing more snaps than DeAndre Hopkins, running more routes than DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Hopkins does lead this team in overall targets. He does lead this team in receptions as well and receiving yards. Hopkins is the leading receiver on this team. But nonetheless, if we can take this as a sell high moment with DeAndre Hopkins and just get out of here, even if he is dealing with an ankle injury, even if we have a reason to maybe make an excuse and say Hopkins will be better going. This is a super old wide receiver, right? I mean, this is year 10 of his NFL career. He's drafted in 2013. I mean, injury concerns with the wide receiver in year 10. This isn't going to be something that just gets better all of a sudden. I think we probably need to go through and pivot off if we can, especially if you can get a price of a top 24 wide receiver. But I think that's all I have for y'all with this video. Again, thank you so much for checking it out. If you have not done so already, go down there, hit that like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, if you want to check out any of those pick'ems for tonight's game on Underdog, you can find that link in the description and in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500 on Underdog Fantasy. Plus, you're going to be getting our updated rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And for tonight's game, a Geno Smith special pick'em, more than less than half a passing yard. And if you are after tonight's game, then instead it'll be a Justin Fields, more than less than half a passing yard on Thursday night. But thank you again. I really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you out with the live stream later tonight.